He has prepared a presentation containing some very helpful tips that each and every one of us can benefit from. With great honor and pleasure, I would like to welcome our guest speaker of today's event, Mr. Antonius Richard Rosley. Thank you. Now I would like to invite our guest for today, Mr. Antonius Richard Rosley, to give his insight. Thank you.
Everyone hear my voice loud and clear?
Yes.
Sure. Okay. I'd like to thank you guys for this opportunity to be able to share some of the content that we are working on. I will directly try to share screen. Can the admin enable me for share screen?
All right, it's good.
Sure. Okay, I will proceed. The topic that I want to bring up today is about the prototyping. I mean, everybody knows what prototype means, but in today's presentation, I would like to see how we try to redefine prototype in a context of what tropical architecture should be. Before I proceed, can somebody please let me know how many minutes do I have in this presentation so I can adjust the speed accordingly?
Around 1 hour.
Around 1 hour, all right. Sure. Okay. Before I would like to state in small practice of what we try to achieve is always how to space, what it is to create a space, and what does architecture really mean, and then like how we try, even if it's one step ahead, or probably re-questioning everything, regardless how we express architecture differently. That's what we want to try to explore in most of the project. Small introduction about RAD+ar. We are a very small studio, now around 20%, 25%. We were formed in 2017, and our objective is how can we create a sustainable design that into developing economic context. It's easy to create a very advanced building development in a developed country, you know, because by the end of the day, architecture is also a product of capitalism. But when it comes to developing country, everything has to be breakdown based to the profit related, because developing country capitalism hits differently, you know, because like everything has to be able to create a very fast-paced return. So what do we mean by that? In normal architect and client relationship is like that. So with architect, we have these clients. So as an architect, we have to maintain this exclusive relationship, you know, because that's how we can ensure that actually architect is a very exclusive job, because when everybody can do it, right, then if everybody can do it, then the value is declining, you know. Or normally architect responds to client only, or basically exclusively delivering the needs of the client. But in most of our project, this is what we are trying to do. So in every project, we always assume and also communicate to the clients that actually we are not only doing for them. So we have to clarify it right at the beginning, before the project even started. What we're trying to tell them is, okay, hey client, I have responsibility to you. I will deliver the most unique, provocative and evocative special experience that we can try to craft. But in the process, I just want to let you know that each of your project will try to create a prototype or the spirit of each project that we can share with society at large, because that's how we can make sure, or at least try as an architect, to be both exclusive to the client, but also can be inclusive to society, meaning each of our project has this unique takeaway, hopefully sustainable related, can be business related. It's not exclusively about architectural approach. So how does everybody takes and plays their role? The architects become the inspiration and innovation team. As staying, they also serve the society to fund. They're like the financier. They are ensuring that each project is like a build proof of this special art that we design. So without them, there will be no architecture. It's just a drawings, right? But once they invest on it, they help us to work in hand, deliver it to society. Each prototype, whether or not it's working or not, then we can see. And then by keep repeating this process, what we get is actually a satisfying customer. But also because, as I say at the beginning, that actually we have to clarify it upfront, because some of the clients, they do not want their projects to be highly public, so they need some level of privacy, and those we do work on those projects, but not that many. So the inspiration and innovation machine really forced to be more innovative, and creative. Each project demands more than just satisfying a client, but also keep delivering to the society at large that actually architecture has been improved annually, and then by doing so, the client help us to mature the market, inflating the standard of living and built environment. Some of you might think that's a weird statement to have. Inflating design. Is that even a word? It is. So I'll give you an example. So if you see, for example, I will just say name. Okay, let's say so Fujimoto architecture, right? If you date it back 10 years ago, all of those projects were amazing, his early work, right? Whatever is mind-blowing. But then those level of buildings and innovation you build today, I'm not even sure you can make it to Arts Daily, because everybody can do such a good design right now. That's what we call that design is also inflated. There is an inflation in design. That's why we need to keep upgrading the design, because market and society at large were being matured over time by each prototype that architects delivers. Before I started, I would like to highlight this diagram in which I will describe even further. Where we practice, we try to differentiate the purpose context and the time context. There are 3 points each. The first one, as a very young studio, mind you, I'm 29 years old today. So my teams are also under 30 architects. It's a very early age for practice architecture. That's why we cannot just first and mindlessly doing our practice, because it literally costs us our time. So basically, this is what we want to highlight. There will be time context, because there is this awareness trap of provision, time burn rate, and strategic overlapping. I'll explain further. We'll dissect each one. Okay, the first one is early impact radius. Okay, here in RAD+ar, we're trying to focusing our practice into tropical related only. You know why? Because actually there is this irony in architecture. As you know, there are 125 countries resides in equator line. Okay, in all Asia, Africa, and also American. But the unique thing is, I'm not sure whether or not you realize this, most of the countries are developing countries, with some exception of, for example, like Malaysia and Singapore, of course. But then like the rest of the country is actually a developing country. This is a phenomena nobody really want to talk about, you know. And then like 92% of megacities are actually located in tropical belt. Means in 2050, I think this research has dated. This one has been for like years ago. So I'm sure now it has small estimate of the world with tropics. This is very, very dangerous because in country architecture has never been evolved that much. And another point we have in time is of the trade profession. We are literally trading time with results. By this definition, yeah, we are literally trading time with money. So like doctor, lawyer, to complete one things or one project, it takes years. So you literally you cannot see whether or not your theory is working until you completed the whole project, right? And then see whether or not the market can absorb your ideas. Another point we'll highlight is the how we divide it into two. It's like how fast and how efficient. Because for us right now as a young practitioner, efficient is number two. Number one is how fast we can create each prototype. So for most of our project, we try to build it under a year, your time. And then time burn rate is what you're saying is actually, we try to start research a lot for one project, but when it's done, you cannot replicate, right? Because it's the symbol of it's like a mockery to architecture. So it's actually, if you think about it, it's kind of weird, right? You study a lot and then prepare a lot, you know the class, etc. Just to create one masterpiece. That's it. You cannot replicate it. Right? It's such a waste of time. So literally, say it's get built. What if each of our project is only like 50% get? Then like you're literally wasting your time for nothing, not even for portfolio. And then like lastly, after we try to put in very fast and effective, then we need to see whether or not we are efficient. And then the last thing is strategic overlapping. This is very important, especially for projects that will be built in 10 years time. So I've seen this mistake a lot. So what that means is, for example, as an architect, I assume everybody in this room is an architect, or at least studying architecture. Let's say you're very inspired project, and you consciously or unconsciously mimic the idea and the spirit of this design now, right? And then your client like it as well. So what happened? You design exactly the spirit and the content following that is proven to be very successful. But the thing is, we often don't realize these projects takes like, for example, 5 to 6 years to get realized, right? And once you finish the design, it will takes another 6 years to complete. So what happened there? If you just copying the man's principle without readjust and recalibrate the context, every buildings that is successful being copied by others will have at least one decade's gap. So 10 years to 20 years gap period, which we don't really know whether or not each theory is working. So that's why strategic overlapping is very important. For example, if your project takes more than 5 years to complete it, probably you need to readjust your design. Otherwise, once it gets completed, it's no longer relevant. Okay. Now I will try to give an example of this point that I've just described. So each opportunity of the design, we try to create a prototype. This one, right now we are doing about 30 MOS, but this one that this is this one is recently completed and got awarded as a finalist in World Architecture Festival. So this mosque is actually quite unique. This mosque was finished during COVID, right? So during the early wave of COVID, Indonesians are doing terrible. Countries are looking into us because, like, not only that we are not vaccinated, but then like we are forgetting something very important. 235 million of Indonesians are Muslims, right? So imagine like you're going to the mosque 5 times a day. It's basically mosque has transformed into this a bigger circle of it right now. And then like people don't really want to listen to politicians when it comes to religion, really. And then like we around 850,000 mosques right now, meaning every 300 people have one mosque in Indonesia. So mosque is really a deal. And then when it comes to COVID, this opportunity, we have this 8 months opportunity to complete a mosque. We're trying as much as we can to create practicing your religion is like praying outdoor. Yeah. So we're trying to create a mosque that is proven to be safer to be used during pandemic. And then like because we only have around 7 to 8 months time to complete the design, we need to be very modular, using a very modular material. And also because of the budget constraint, we try to eliminate anything that is wall related and replace it with rooster. As you can see, building is not, it's not really a building, it's actually just a shade. It's just a shade, really. So everything is back to open air. In every corner of the building is actually an opening, yep, to release the hot air. And then because the location is extremely hot, the only way I can make sure the wind temperature is extreme is to create a massive floating planter on the roof of the mosque. So we're trying to eliminate the dome elements in design and then creating a massive 1 meter depth planter to create extreme temperature and wind pressure. So this is what it looks like. And then like unique things in Indonesia, I'm not pretty sure it's also happening in Malaysia, but as what I can tell that in Indonesia, a mosque is not really just a place to pray, but then like it was used more into like a community center, really. So they hang out, you know, with kids, with neighbor, and then like during afternoon, you know. So as you can see, everything in this mosque is basically an inlet and outlet of different air velocities to massage the air velocities moving from every direction. So it's practically outdoor. That was shaded, to put it simply. So the roof, as you can see, we are desperate. We have tried many approach, but then like because the region temperature is around 35 Celsius degree, we were desperate, right? So there's less and less options we can use. So finally, once we find this balance, and then once we make this as a giant planter, it works. It actually works. So the extreme temperature creates a very contrasting air velocities. Now there comes another problem, right? So what happens if the indoor and outdoor temperature gets too far? It's too extreme. So cannot control the air velocity. How to ensure that actually the air that flows is actually around 1 meter per second. So we have to massage. So the each opening of the roosters actually is acting like as a windbreaker, and also from the interior, the higher the rooster, the opening gets smaller to ensure that actually we only release the hot air, not the your normal air. And then as you can see in the 75 centimeter level from the ground, there's the opening. This is actually where the cold air flows, and then we try to ensure it was filtered with garden first, both indoor and outdoor, and to also minimize the water drops from raining entering the prey area. So nothing in there is too fancy. It's just playing around and then really studying the local temperature. During these 6 months, there are a lot of that will happen. And then, like, the unique things about this is actually because of the time concerns, and during the COVID, everybody, especially in Indonesia, this developing country, has lost a lot of jobs. People has lost a lot of jobs, so it creates massive breakout. People don't have anything to do. So in 1 kilometer radius, we're trying to enforce local inhabitant to create, and we buy it from them. It's not really cheap, but then like we customize breaks, so ensure the privacy. You can see I cannot see through this happening inside, but at this time it ensures an open air that is different from each angle. So it mainly estimated 30,000 rooster bricks, but during the process, I mean, yeah, that's the worst part from participatory design. There are too many factors that is unpredictable. We end up like buying around 45,000 pieces. I'll fast forward about this project. Also residential. In residential, we're trying to study 2 prototypes for this presentation. One is if we try to build new, and then like another point is renovation project. In Indonesia, I'm not so sure that it's also happening in many developing countries, but only 16% of its population can afford housing, like own it, you know, and like 95% is actually landed. So we are not really a big fan of apartment and vertical living. The thing is, without financier from the country or the bank, most of us cannot afford housing because it's also expensive right now. Therefore, we are really relying on developers, so we can do credit. I'll fast forward. This one is actually type that we tried to do when we decided to build new buildings. Okay. What this is actually a simple experimental house, which we tell the client that actually we want to try to reduce optimistically at the beginning, only reduce 3 degrees Celsius without any air conditioning. So creating a really passive buildings, try to building approach in this house. So as you can see, we use a swimming pool on the 2nd floor, not only to help reduce the heat and the TV buildings floor, but also try to reflect a lot of natural illumination into the buildings. And every facade is actually functional. The facade itself is structural. Some of them we are using them as to block the OTTV, block the direct heat, and then like to make sure that after the structures being transferred, there's a gap like a terrace to minimize the heat that was transferred to double volumes glass behind it. So basically, this is the section, as you can see. It doesn't really look like a home though, but we love it. I mean, it's quite fun. So the center part is actually the living room. In this approach, we're trying something unique that we try to sunken the first floor. So you don't really see the rooms on the first floor. And then because the owner is quite old, we need to ensure that he can reach every corner in his home. So very wheelchair friendly design for the circulation. We're using also the wheelchair part, the ramp that serve as a wind chimney. So what we do is actually create like a gallery because he loves to paint. Yeah, oh, I know the very expensive paint shouldn't really need direct sunlight, but then like whatever he wants. The idea is actually the circulation part acted as a wind chimney. So extreme temperature between the reflective pool on the ground, and then like so the temperature difference is extreme, so does the air pressure, to ensure that actually the space can breathe by itself. So most of the opening, if you can see the detail, there's an opening for hot air to flow outside. And then in each room, yeah, so as you can see, all the second floor is actually double volumes. Each room is actually has own small opening, only 30 by 30 centimeters. But then like we try to create like a cone, so we can ensure we maximize the illumination with the as minimum as direct sunlight penetrating the buildings. So this is the spatial experience within the home. I'll just walk through you briefly. You can see on the image on the left side, the 30 by 30 opening, this image was taken during construction. They are very shy about it and they don't want their rooms to be documented in pictures. So this was taken during construction. We try to carve all the ceilings to create like a giant cone, in which during nighttime it can also serve as the indirect holder. All the facade is structural. It channel the structure to the ground. We also make sure that I mean, easy living in tropics, we only have 2 seasons really. So we try to ensure during in every day time in the year, we have plenty of natural sunlight. So we do not use any artificial light during daytime. Okay, moving forward is this one. So what unique is in Indonesia, I'm not trying to sound a bit racist or typical, but the developer tried to sell a house or housing complex that is facing north and south. So if it's like a bit a square, the short part is actually facing north and south, because it's a good feng shui. So although the minor Chinese in Indonesia, very small percentage, probably only like 10% of the population, but then like the developer ensures that actually all the side plans, you know, short part is facing north and south. For us, it's actually a big problem because it means most of the buildings elongate through east and west. And that's a bit dangerous because a lot of exposure to the direct heat in tropical plants. But then like this is also the reality that we cannot always build new. And in this prototype, we want to try to experiment on how to interfere with, we want to make changes with a very minimum intervention. We try to experiment with glass block because it's actually I can use the internal part as a structure, so I can structure within the block. So unlike walls, I mean, you guys in Malaysia maybe don't have earthquake, so it's a bit chill. But in Indonesia, most of the building has this earthquake challenge, and means in every 12 square meter you need to reinforce them with structure. So it becomes more challenging in Indonesia to make design like this because like we hide the structure very well, but things I like about glass block is actually it helps to buffer the heat by at least 25%. Can also act it like a glass, but then like it's very durable. You cannot punch through it. It's very safe. Even if your car hit it, your car will be dented. The glass probably is like a stir in the texture or something. So as you can see, there is nothing really special about the plants. Why? because it's an existing plans from developer. So when every time we show these plans, we just modified the second floor toilet, and that's it. So every time we show these plans, people were asking, what's the difference? Really not much. And that's the point, because what we want to say is don't have to be inclusive and the exclusivity. We want to show them actually you don't need like a massive special changes in order to make your building more sustainable. As you can see in this, you can still see the old buildings on the left side, and then also on the ceilings, profiles. So everything is existing building. We see replace the wall that was to be less effective. The short part is facing north south, in which south emitting a lot of illumination, receiving light heat. So this is facing south. We try to bring as much as sunlight that we can during nighttime, during daytime. And funny thing is, because everything was done by we can and it's done very fast. It's doing Legos, And then the unit that is north, because like the whole time in day, you have like a very bright facade, because like they need privacy. They don't really need staring back at their neighbor. Just need to highlight places, but then we do combination between glass door and sunlight. So nighttime, what about is actually it works both ways. So in the daytime you can try to minimize use artificial light, but nighttime is actually it can also work the other way around. So when you use artificial lighting for your indoor, it actually can be used as your lighting for your facade as well. So it's actually we save a little bit there. Okay, so basically this is some intervention in the interior spaces. Yeah, and then I just show you two examples in and building. We are on our way to finish at least another 6 of the residential project, but in which each project we try to bring out some ideas that is very simple for commoners or non-architect or non-construction people to understand. They can apply the principle in their own house. So basically, that's what we love. We try. What we meant by saying prototype is actually each project this way that non-client can learn and apply it themselves. Okay. So next is public space prototyping. Yeah. Another point is in Indonesia, because most of our government is extremely corrupted. We are far way back behind KL and Malaysia. We are like 10 years behind. So the thing is, we cannot rely on government public that is well maintained. Is most of the public spaces has to be integrated some sort of retails to ensure we can maintain. Yeah, so the profit of the business can also helps to maintain the property, because if it's public spaces experience in most part of Asia, it's not well designed, it was not well built, and the worst part of not well maintained. So during COVID, we actually take an opportunity to push to create as many open space as we can. This one is actually was originally before it was planned to be not as a plaza, more into buildings, commercial buildings, and then because it was located in very strategic, and then we tried to encourage the owner that, hey, why not we create this like communal garden instead, and to ensure that actually the owner not just doing it temporarily, and once the economics is getting better, they will trample over it and build a tower. We try to instill some level of structure and architecture embedded into the 3D landscape. Therefore, it was safer, and then I mean, like, until they are reaching their break-even point, probably most people can still enjoy these public spaces, you know. So there's like an insurance for the customer and then for the visitor to enjoy as many as open spaces as we can. Yeah, I'll just fast forward. This is the progress. This one is the new commercial garden that we do, Tanatap. I'm not gonna explain too far, but the idea is in this project, we to get people that actually you can create a garden that is wrapped by buildings. So as you see in the image on the right side, the building is just an envelope. So from the outside, it doesn't appear like a garden, it appears like a building. But really, when you enter the buildings, it's just a garden, you know. It's a two-story garden. It's a 3D plant garden, so it's integrated with architecture and landscape. And then all the spaces, all the commercial spaces, try to hide and shy away from the garden, you know. So we want the commercial spaces to be a consequences space rather than purposeful. Yep. So it was hidden underneath the garden, behind the glass walls, but really everything is open air. And it's quite popular. So this place has around 1,000 visitors every day. So by creating this indirectly, yeah, this is very inclusive. I'm trying to deliver a message to people. Hey, you don't have to be defined by your temperature. You actually can punch through your way to create a sustainable environment. It can be fun, and most important of all, it can be very popular, and then help to inspire many developers to, you know, move from conventional mall in which during COVID got hit hard. People want to stay out, so we took it as a very good opportunity. Not only that, trying to create also a lot of renovation commercial spaces that is a very centered garden and sustainable concepts embedded within. Why? Because we just give them a fact that actually, I cannot say for sure, but I think most of the urban development is also look like this, you know. So every day, most even residential or green space is taken away, and then like we have less and less green space. And then like our purpose is in each of our project, we're trying to bring it back. So this is the example of this mixed-use commercial building that we do. We call it Rinjani Sky Village. This one is still under construction. It used to look like this, and then like it's actually it's not very reputable hotel, but this has its own history, because this is the first love hotel, I think, in this area, in which you can enter with your car and nobody needs to know that you're entering the hotel, because you can just shut the garage right away and go upstairs. Everything was the booking was done through a phone call. Therefore, the site plan looks like this, because we try to use as much as existing building as we can. So mostly it's renovation, but then like we just install a new building on the west side. And then what we do is actually we eliminate everything that is unnecessary and bring back the nature to the site plan. So although the buildings was afloat because the building itself is on the top of the hill with a very magnificent views. So we try to tell them that actually, you know what, let's bring back the garden to the ground floor so people could experience more close with nature. Yeah, this is just details out. Okay, that views is actually exact views taken. So we want the experience floors, walking through the floor hill. So walking through stories, it's like walking in a park. You can go from first floor to the floor, walking gardens. It's a very simple concept though. Like people were surprised. The building looks ugly because it's actually an existing building, and we try to not to invent so much buildings, but focusing more on how can we embed it more lens through the existing structure. Fast forward, and the lobby was placed on the rooftop, so people can enjoy the experience of sky lobby. Okay. I have minutes left. Fast forward, office prototyping. This one is interesting because this is also serve an office, and this is exactly where I am right now. It's a small grassroots office prototyping, and then like it was started when we built this office. We asked the question: was it really relevant to have an office building in a developing country? You know why? Because 80% of economic in Indonesia is informal sectors. We do not require. It's also a fact. So it was enhanced during COVID, right? So during COVID, it's just everything just getting worse because people stop going to the office. And then like if you go to this Jakarta, for example, most of the office building is dying. And they only probably have 25% occupants left. It was worse than even before COVID, because most of Indonesian is working in informal sector. So what they need is actually smaller office, landed smaller office. And normally, sometimes it was located in residential area. So rather than stopping people, telling them that, hey, you know what, you cannot build office in residential area. It's just wrong, it's not good for the neighborhood. But you cannot stop them anyway because it's a grassroots. If everybody is doing it at the same time, this big country of Indonesia, who are you to stop them? You are one man only, or even government cannot control everything. So we would rather inspire them. Okay, if you want to make a small offices, listen to the neighborhood area, how can you do it? So the idea is to really focusing on hub and spoke model and try to eliminate as much as unnecessary elements of the office and just try to bring the essential part where people discuss, people meet up, and then like we try to bring the idea that the ground floor is nothing but just the extension of the garden. So our office is actually just like a giant roof sitting on the garden. As you can see, we're still in the neighborhood area, so you can still see this abang-abang, just cycle their way, selling coffee and such. It's okay. But then like we're trying to show people that actually we have runoff, we are very self-sustained, the whole 600 use air conditioning around like 5 PK is very small, knowing that actually a lot of people are using it. So the criteria is has to be sizable. Budgeting has to be less than 150,000 USD, and then like has to be small icon of sustainability and changes. The idea was sparked because like the dogma that we have in tropical buildings, actually, you have to north south orientation because less activity and such. So we do is to do it completely the opposite. We try to elongate it east and west. They said, in tropics you have to have a lot of openings. We try to create exactly the opposite of it. We create like what it appears like a massive facade. It's actually not. Try to avoid east and west, and then we do complete opposite. And then we try to, in this office of ours, we try to do everything that is dogmatic about tropical architecture, 180-degree different. And then like, as always, we always use functional facade. We never do cosmetic facade. So the facade in the east is actually used to reduce direct heat. So it's pitch green roof. So most people were asking, in Indonesia, a lot of heavy rain come, the soils intact, because we add another layers of structure in there. I will not walk you with the details. But the idea is in the east side, we make sure that actually we create 5 openings, very differently, juxtaposition. But at the same time, it will ensure that the temperature on the east constantly low and the air velocity constantly high. And then like all the interior spaces is actually very bright and very rich in sunlight illumination. We try to ensure that by using lux meter in every corner for buildings. So you can see the neighborhood. It's not the fanciest neighborhood of all, but it's okay. And then like the idea of combining between terracotta roof that has a very short time lag with the green roof is actually, we found it is quite effective. You know, air flows afloat, and then by the end of the day, you need to wash it away. But without the air velocity differences, your heat will be trapped. You need the catalyst to create a different temperature, but at the same time, you need a material that is breathable and is have a very low time lag. The ground floor, people were asking why we're trying to experiment with the color of black. We want to show people that, hey, you know what? If you use lux meter in every corner of the room and you get more than 300 lux, most of the time, the illumination comes from the reflection. By doing everything black, what we want to show our client is actually, go ahead, use your lux meter, and most of our corner is still 300 lux, although almost no lights being reflected whatsoever. That means we can still have a very deep plan facing east and west, but by using the right approach, we can also and trying to create a different experience, you know. So it's not like black and white kind of approach. Everything is gray, and then this prototype is trying to show them actually you can do whatever you want. It doesn't have to be dogmatic, but you just have to know how to use it. So in the west facade, we actually use a giant mirror, and then we are trying to reflect the heat, and then to the black, bright, and metal spaces. You're saying, huh? On the west part, you're using it as a public spaces, but how come you want to reflect the heat back to the surface? Because what people don't want is actually the humidity. They do not hate the direct sunlight. That's what you do when you go to the beach, right? And then you go to the beach to enjoy space as well. So it's actually not a big deal. What you don't want is the humidity. So while we create an extreme temperature east and west, like you see, the west is the outdoor seating area. This is the lounge. So we do informal lounge for people to work on. Yeah, so by doing the east and west extreme, the west part, the surface will always is a high temperature, and then the air pressure is always low, on the low side. So it's a constant movement from east to the west for the air velocities. It goes horizontally, but it also goes diagonally. It's just a with a giant roof sitting on top of it, create a massive shade, and then like a lot of detail for wind ventilation. Actually, I will not bore you with the details, but basically from what looks like a very blocking facade, it's actually a 5 juxtaposition of the interior and exterior in the eastern part. To ensure not only on the first floor, but also on the second floor, most of the room reach 300 lux of illumination. I'll fast forward. I only have 10 minutes left. This is the east facade. As you can see, we use the hard elements and of course some landscape to buffer the heat, but on the west part, we try to reflect the sunset heat back to space, ground surface, metal surface, table surface, and such. Contrast between east and west. A lot of details of natural airflows. Okay, and then from that prototype, we move on into the bigger project. This one is commercial garden we're trying to developing. This is what we're this is what we meant by this strategic overlapping. So while undergoing one experimental species, we make sure we try to applicate it the right way into another project and another project to make sure everything is overlapping. So any project that is proven to be working, and then we directly try to apply it and so on to make sure it's overlapping. I'll just move forward with the few minutes I have left. And then we do some of another prototype, but I will not go into detail. But the idea is a lot of mid-rise buildings that needs renovation. We try to exercise of what it takes to create a passive buildings really in each of different contexts, because each prototype has its challenge. So, for example, like this building is actually a classical building during their time, but I don't want to completely eliminate most of the elements, so we try to combine. This one is the hotel in Bali. We want to create a lobby that has no buildings, that has no walls, so it's only like a roof lobby, create a very urban roof. So in the center is actually the lobby and the small bar. Yeah, basically all the tropical architecture stuff, I will just skip it because my time is short. Yep. And then we also experimenting with the landscape buildings. Integration between landscape and buildings is really our priorities and what we love to explore in our practice. 1 second. Okay, and then we also do vertical hotel right now on progress. Then again, each project that I'm showing in this presentation is overlapping with the projects that we have done in the smaller part. Whatever works with, we try to adapt to the bigger one and so forth. And then now we're trying to experiment with the public spaces that also use as a private gallery underneath. Yep. Offices that we have developed the system on know-how. This one we're trying to sunken the whole offices within the garden, and then just some functional part that was afloat as a shade of the garden. Something like this. Yeah, there's a few prototypes that I can show from many undergoing projects we are still constructing right now. We also do a lot of social religious buildings. So I just want to ask you if you guys had any CSR project, corporate social responsibility, like mosque, a church, or anything that is non-commercial part. We love to help you design free of charge. From our part, we would love to help society growing better. This one is actually a house for pastor. Yeah, basically this is a Catholic church leader on making, so they are big on staying poor as their process, and herding is one of the rituals. So they took it very seriously, taking care of the goats and the chickens. So we also want to contribute, and then we don't want the storage, the chicken coop and goat pen is smelly and dirty. We want it to be as a place to pray. Basically, this is it. I'll fast forward. And few mosques on the making. Again, as you can see, it's all tropical mosques. Yeah, most people are against it because is it gonna work, or how would people respond? But because we are quite sure, because each project that we do, we have overlapped them before with something similar technique that is proven to be working. That's why it gave us confidence to ask our client to work together to make sure this prototype will be inclusive for people. In each project that we finish, it's a milestone for us to keep creating like an innovation machine and idea machine, like I showed you guys the slides up front. So we ask our client to be a part of our journey to educating the society to be more acceptable and open into another good idea. So as I can say, as I was saying, it's maturing the market and making sure design keep inflated, so they are open to more ideas and experimental. Okay, so I think my time is up. I hope you guys get the idea. Pardon my English. It's not my first language. So I think that's all. Thank you.
I would like to thank Mr. Antonius Richard Rosley again for your time and sharing your insight. I believe that the students have gained a better understanding about design approach and sustainable designs. Are there any questions from the students regarding the topic shared today? You may share in the chat box. There is actually one question in the chat box, which is, each project had different approaches in design. What is the main inspiration in each project?
Okay, I will try to answer that as much as I can. So we tried not to look each of our project like a sculpture or like an artwork, that every project needs to be special and screams for themselves. The way we look at our projects as an opportunity to create as many prototypes as possible. Therefore, because we are trying to create a different ideas in every design, we are forced to really question everything. Like, okay, so what was working in our previous approach, but we do not want to use again, because then what's the point? We're just basically, okay, if I just follow the same principle that exactly I know will works, then back like in my presentation at the beginning, I'm just being exclusive, so I'm delivering this good content of what I have experienced before and deliver it to the clients. So only the clients will benefit. Society, they will not, because they don't know. It's just the same concept being applied. I'm not sure. For example, like back in the day, 8 years ago in Malaysia, Mr. Kevin Maclose loved to use bricks, and then like suddenly in Cal, everybody use bricks, and then like, I mean, the design approach carry out through the project, which is good because they are being consistent. But at the same times, we lost the opportunity to explore what is the new concept can be brought up. You know what? It's not your money. It's being funded by the client. So look at this as an opportunity to do a research of each project that was being funded by the client. And then like through this project, you can educate and help market to grow better. That's how we look at it really. So I cannot really tell which project, what inspired this project and what inspired that project, because each project are different. But started with the right mindset. The mindset will be like, okay, in this new project, what can we explore? And then say we are non-architect or non-construction related buildings, like normal people, and then like I visit this building. What is the takeaway I can learn from this space? And then how can I apply that in my life? That was really our mindset before we were doing any design, making sure each and every buildings that we do, if you go there and you're not architects, what can you really learn and adapt and also adopt in your living environment, because like that's how we contribute inclusively to the society. I hope my answer makes some sense.
There is another question, which is, any of these projects you did is involving old buildings, site, or structure?
They are actually quite a few of them. I think around 6. Yeah, but then like I gotta be honest, not that many. because in developing countries, it's actually cheaper to just build new from owner point of view. Unlike in developed country, they are overbuilt. They have more buildings than its people, so it's more like a renovation project. But in developing country, we have more land plot than the buildings, and then like to build is actually cheaper than the land cost. And then the percentage is extreme. It's like 5 to 2, in urban area. So it's like, don't care, just build new, because my investment will return better, compared to renovation. So basically, you have to understand that the background of the developer and the market in Indonesia as a developing country, really. Therefore, I don't really have that much context. But to do your second point, how to make your buildings, what are the challenges in keeping the project in small budget? Well, I'm not so sure you really watch all the presentation, but most of our project is not really that high-end project. Yeah, and then like not all of them are using this very expensive high-tech material, both material or nor technique, So okay, we've tried to focus more innovation in craftsmanship. That's the thing. So what can we do is like, imagine this, compared to creating a new technology, we would rather, if your budget is quite tight, what you can do, but you want to keep innovating, right? Architect is like an event organizer, really. So you organize contractor, you organize material, you organize the space, you organize the client. So some of the innovation can be in the organization, how you arrange these things. So for example, you try to use bricks, and how many innovation can you bring from just layering bricks? So sometimes getting back to the most fundamental elements can help you brings out the innovation while ensuring that it is cheap. For example, like the mosque we do previously, if we just use small numbers of roosters, it's actually more expensive. But then like once we decided, okay, the only way to do this is to remove all unnecessary walls completely and creating 30,000 rooster bricks, because we order so many, and then ensuring the radius is small. That's why the price go extremely low. So sometimes it's not the question of the price, but then like how can we ensure we arrange it correctly. So maybe the way to put it is maybe reverse engineer first. So if you're starting from the budget, right, we can do that too. So okay, the mentality is it has to fit in this certain budget, and then like making sure that you are fully committed to make a unique, special experimentation from that budget in mind, right? And then ask yourself, what is the most creative way I can use this money to explore the special experience for me and for the client? Normally, that's what works for us, and therefore we can create like a quite unique experience for customer and user. I hope that it helps. And actually, the renovation projects actually tend to be more expensive because there are some heritage building, and then like there is regulation that is coming along with it. This actually make it harder. Like you cannot just use a standard contractor. Sometimes they have to understand and respect the building. So for our context in Indonesia, sometimes renovation can cost me more than builds new. But like the one that I show you just now, renovation doesn't have to be remodel everything. It can still look different, but starting with one simple thing, like for example, that one we use just glass block. Starting question is, what is the problem with this building? Why should I change it? Why should I renovate this? Oh, okay, because this building is facing north and south, so in the middle is always dark, right? And then like there's no airflow, there's no right airflow because Chinese nation, they just build everything, they don't care. And we are way behind Malaysia, trust me. So starting with that question, okay, so how much is one brick? How much does it cost to lay these glass bricks, right? And then recalculate everything, and then like which way which the best way to arrange these glass bricks to ensure we answer the problems that we have in the beginning of the project. So it's actually very cheap. That one is maybe the cheapest project we have done. Starting with the very one fundamental question, and people thought that it's actually a new building because it looks completely different. So I'm not so sure that my answer can be applied to every project, but I think the mindset can help us a lot.
Right. So, hi Richard, Fish here. Okay. So, thanks for the sharing session. I guess it is very helpful in a way for the students to look into what are the possibilities when it comes to the responding to the tropical settings in that sense. Because now, as you said, like working with the existing buildings compared with the from scratch, the challenge is different. It's kind of like, and the difficulty is different. And I believe that working with the existing building where you have to, like look into the issues and stuff, and also like how the acceptance of the community, because like, for example, like the project, I think your office, right? And when you look into the site context, the surrounding, it's pretty much like a residential, and the typologies of the building, it's kind of like a typical, settings. And when you do something like this, the adaptation of the new ideas and new approach, how does it respond, towards the community itself, the acceptance of the community, and what are the challenges when you do this kind of project?
Okay, thank you, Ms. Hafiz, for the question. I gotta be honest, I'm not that big a fan and not that experienced with renovation project, especially working in the heritage building or maximizing the old structure, because I gotta tell you, it's a different beast. It's a different beast, really. So, I mean, it depends, because each renovation project will spark another different questions that sometimes it's not really optimal. For example, like, why do I need to make sure I optimize the structure? Oh, because it will save us a lot of money. Okay, so it's economical driven mindset. But sometimes, no, it has historic value. Okay, it's a cultural mindset. And sometimes because this region, for example, like in Penang, right, you cannot just do whatever, you have this guideline in doing this design in those areas, for example, like, because you have to respect the what do we call it, the stereotype of the buildings in the neighborhood, for example. So there will be many concerns that was not the main aspect of our core values that we have to adapt and respect. That's why what I was saying, doing renovation project can be and is super challenging. That's why the last year, Pritzker Prize winner is specialized in renovation, because it's not something to be taken lightly. But for me personally and in RAD+ar, we have passed many renovation projects. So we are not that big in the renovating projects because we are not the expert. And sometimes what happened along the way, if we jump headfirst to this project with arrogance, it actually costs the client more money. So it requires a special technique, and also the politics, not only to the clients, the regulator, but also to the contractor, to the neighborhood, to the environment. It's actually very, very challenging. And for me personally, it's less rewarding somehow, because the way I look at it is, maybe it's because the way we practice architecture in Indonesia, like most people are not gifted or maybe lucky enough to experience what is architecture really, So every time I got a chance to let them experience what is special, what is the special experience that is unique and explorable. I hate to really fit the buildings, but I can ensure it will cost the same. So I will start with what's your budget, and then like from that, if to renovate is the only way to go, then I will do it. Otherwise, we'll take around of something to making sure. But by the end of the day, it's just numbers. For some, unless it's a heritage building or something cultural issues, right? If when it comes to that, normally I pass because at this point of our career, we don't want to mess it up with something that we are not an expert into. But for me personally, most of people do renovation project because of the budget constraints. Some of them, right? And so forth. Sometimes I just really back to the simplest question: how can we achieve the best experience through this budget? If we can, if we want to do it, and then we start from that. So I'm so sorry I don't have a very good answer regarding to your question, because in our practice we are not very fond of renovation project, at least for now.
Yeah. I mean, the way on how the design approach that you have is quite interesting, so yeah, we really need to look into it. And because now our students are working on the adaptive reuse project, so there's a lot of challenge, like in terms of structural challenge, and also like the maturities, and also like how the adaptation of the tropical, the natural, because now when we talk about our tropical, especially like a shop lot, so there's a lot of like constraints and design tracks
exactly
they have to go through. Yeah, so yeah,
it's
so
the
at least
pain in
you
the ass.
open your mind to see. Yeah.
It's pain in the ass. But if it's worth the exposure, right, you'll find a way to make it kick ass, and like if it's worth it, then I'm sure you will make like a very awesome project out of it. But normally, unless it's worth it, I will just pass because sometimes, and then like sometimes I'm not sure about Indonesia, but then like in Indonesia, people thought actually renovating is easy. That's also maybe why high and economical reason why we pass on the project, because they said like, oh, it's a renovation, how expensive can it be? Well, that's true. I want to save your money, but I don't want you to pay me less. That's a two different thing, right? So that's why if it's like something that has value that needs to be renovated, people will respect you for your effort, and they will appreciate your hardship to make sure that it's working. But in especially in my background, my context, people always thought that actually, hey, I'm just renovating. Why should I pay you this much? So that's their mindset, that renovating is easy. Whereas what I try to tell them, because I have to compromise with your context, to actually make it harder. So yeah. So, yeah, it's actually hard to argue when you're young and broke. So make sure you have some leverage. Right? Make sure you have some leverage.
Yep. All right. Any more questions from the floor? Yeah, we're looking forward to have you around if you have like a final presentation, if you're interested to join us, and we can keep in touch on that.
Sure, no problem.
Have your free time. Yeah. Okay. Ralph?
I would like to thank you for your time again, and I would like to take a photo